What is going on, RotoGrinders? Happy Friday. 2 hours of nonstop MLB DFS conversation starts right now. It's an intimate show. It's just myself and Bobby Gomes. Bobby, former $1 million winner, big fan of the Sims, simulations in general. This simulation tonight, Bobby, we have a 13-game, a big boy slate. A lot of pitching, especially considering how weak pitching has been this year. Hitting not spectacular, weather not spectacular. It's still pretty cold in many spots. But a lot to dig into. Bobby, welcome to the show. How are things in your world?
Everything's good, Dean. Everything's good. It looks like everyone decided to skip out on the 13-gamer. And, being the good employee that I am at RotoGrinders, I decided to sub in. I stepped up, Some people stepped down and Bobby stepped up. So Meansy, Devin, put that in your little notebook there and be like, oh.
You're always ready. You never really know when you're going to get called upon, right?
How did you know I have a notebook?
I know for a fact you have a notebook. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yep.
Devin's too young to have a notebook. You have a notebook, Devin?
I used to do all of my DFS stuff in a notebook. I'm totally derailing
right
you guys.
Next to me for DFS stuff. Yeah.
Can you show us anything that's interesting of note that might be Slate relevant, or just maybe you doodle? I don't know what's in your notebook.
Mine right now is not it's not anything related to the slate. It says Penny with a hand turkey on it. My cat's name is Penny.
Okay. I would not have got there, by the way. I would have needed a bunch of guesses.
I think my wife got to the board, basically, is what I'm saying.
Not Penny's boat. What do you, Bobby, anything relevant? Is it right next to you, your notebook next to you, or no? Not so much.
There's nothing really in the notebook currently. I had like Vogelbach and Senzel and Smith, just waiting to see if they hit lineups and stuff, just for like guys that I didn't know if they were in, if I could add to groups that I was making.
Because you're always digging into play IQ. Like you talked to me the other day, you're like, oh man, I can't believe so-and-so wasn't in the lineup because they were really popping on play IQ. I can't remember who the guy was, but you're really upset somebody wasn't in the lineup. And like fully tilted you. I don't have a notebook, Bobby. I just have the Almanac. This just tells me who the winners. That's it. What else do I need besides Gray Sports Almanac? Fortunately, it doesn't quite go up to 2024. We're gonna get the updated version, but we'll do our best. I got a guy.
What do you got?
What about
the 8-ball? You need the 8-ball.
Well, the Magic 8-ball. You got to be specific here. Yeah. It's the Magic 8-ball. I want to make sure. Yeah, we got one of those as well. That's certainly, if I'm in a pinch, I can't quite decide yes or no on something. You can only ask a yes or no questions. Maybe we'll bring it on later on the show. Who knows? Maybe the people will request a Magic 8-ball question. But yeah, we all have different ways to get there. We all have different processes try to figure some stuff out. Appreciate you jumping on, Bobby. Always like talking some baseball with you. Do appreciate the chat hanging out with us as well. Do hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, do all those things, hit all the buttons. Do appreciate everything. Speaking of notebooks, who else keeps a notebook is Dave Potts. CheeseIsGood. He always talks about his notebook. Maybe he'll show it off later on in the show, but he'll be on. His article is free today. Friday giveaway, free Friday. If you can multitask and listen to us and read Dave's article, by all means, go for it. But producer Devin just dropped it in chat for the people. The $1 Million Musings, not ironically named. Dude has won $1 million not once, but twice. Bobby knows what that feels like as well. But Dave's musings were free. They're still free. Go ahead and check out that link. And of course, Dave will be on later on, as well as SDL cards. You got Kevin Roth for weather. All right. Big picture as far as the slate here, Bobby. Thoughts before we fully dive in and talk some pitchers? We'll talk some stacks later on.
Yeah, very strong pitching slate, extremely strong, which is, we haven't really seen that this year a ton, just because, as you've mentioned every show, like pitching in MLB has just drastically gone downhill. Maybe it has to do with the pitch clock injuries whatsoever. Just hasn't been great. On this slate, we have aces. We have aces everywhere. Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, Aaron Nola, Elfin. Like, there's a ton of them. Nathan Eovaldi that you can get to. So for me, I had a bunch of pitchers in my player pool. And that's fine. For the bat situation is going to be more condensed, just because I think ownership will be spread out. In that scenario, I just like to get over on my favorite bats. But my pitchers are going to be spread out, and we can kind of talk through pitching a good bit as we go forward here.
What are we doing tonight? 10 lineups, 5 lineups, 100 lineups, 150. How many are we rolling out? You're still kind of figuring it out.
I build for 150, but I'm playing 17. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Why 17 and not the 16 not enough and 18 says that's just too many?
Just like the contests that I like, I kind of stick to the same contests every night.
And you don't throw those 17 lineups like in like the $15 or whatever. I think you're like in higher dollar stuff, right? You don't just like throw it in other stuff. Or just each one of it's 17 different lineups in 17 different contests, or like they're in 5 contests each.
They're all in the same. So I'm playing the $88. I'll play that a bunch, and then just a single entry team that I'll run through all my single entry stuff.
Do you pick that single entry out of the multi-entry ones?
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I do too. I would like the idea that maybe one of my lineups would crush in MME and I don't have it in the single entry as well. I can't stand that. So yeah, I always choose my lineups out of my MME pool.
Yeah.
Have you been playing the single entry, the 222, the 45, 40, what's the $44, the $5 one? Bobby, because I got it's so rare I get to humble brag, but I'm currently in the second spot right now in the 222 as far as the cumulative for the entire week, which means I got to play on Saturday, Sunday, which I typically do, but sometimes I'll take a day off. You play that at all?
I am in those, yeah, and I've been seeing you crushing and begrudgingly seeing you up there, because we're not friends, dude. We're just colleagues and acquaintances, and I'm competitive. I have to root against you.
I
know
understand.
You've been doing well too. You've been sharing the screenshots in our little secret chat there with Tim. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, earlier in the week, I think it was earlier in the week where Tim finished like 3rd or 4th on Monday. And I think I finished 5th or 4th on Tuesday. And I want to say I cashed every day so far, which is like consensus wise, like I haven't had a bad week. And it's like you drop your lower score, you got to put up as many points as possible. But that just means you're due, Bobby. You're due. You have to finish top 5 now.
I guess I am due. Maybe you guys can let me in on the lineup share and I can score high too,
Yeah. Well, I always like I cut you off and say, Tim, come to the let's keep Bobby out of this one, but this is what we really got to play. We'll tell Bobby this. This is what we really should be playing.
Yeah, you guys, we're gonna zig this way, and then you guys zag, and I'm still zigging. It's not working out.
If we were to do tiers as far as the people in the the people's show, just I don't want to say exactly where you are in the tiers, Bobby, but you can kind of figure it out just by this.
I guess. I'm for the people though. Like I might be the third wheel, but I'm for the YouTube chat. I'm for the people. I can't say that about everyone on the show,
Yeah, I'm just messing around, obviously. Hey, did you have we have time, obviously. I see Dallas Cowboys are
it's a 13-game slate. I don't know why you think we have time here, but you can keep going.
Okay. Are you excited about your Patriots? Are they still your Patriots? Like everybody drafted a quarterback in the first round, and are you excited about the future? Do we care?
They're the only New England team I really feel attached to still. Yeah, I like the Pats. I like Drake May, so I'm excited. I didn't think the Penix thing was that outlandish from the Atlanta Falcons perspective. I know that wasn't the consensus on Twitter for what it's worth.
I mean, I don't pretend to know anything about college football, but I think it's just weird when you trade for and give a pile of money to Kirk Cousins. And then this is like not an original take, but like then drafting Penix. And he's not like he's 21, 22. He's going to be 24 when the season starts. I thought they were gonna like move him. Like, okay, they got his rights. They're gonna trade him someplace else. I guess that's not happening. I guess he's gonna be an Atlanta Falcon, and you have a quarterback controversy on day one. I don't know. It's like you can't have this guy sit for 4 years. Like that can't be the plan.
I think that is the plan. Like he's gonna sit for as long as possible, and then they're just gonna bring him in. And I think Kirk Cousins' contract he can be waived after the 3rd year, and they just move to Penix.
So he makes his NFL debut at 27.
That's what did Jordan Love make his at? I don't think it was. What was Jordan Love's this year?
I don't.
Aaron Rodgers.
Well, Jordan Love was he was on a top 10 pick, right? Love was late first, maybe second round, right? A little bit different. And I think they even traded for it. What did they trade for it or no? Maybe I'm making that up. Did they trade for that spot or they had that spot? I don't recall now. They might have that spot.
I don't remember for sure. I do know that I listened to the press conference today, and Raheem Morris was pretty. They were pretty steadfast. I think they were going Penix the whole time. This wasn't just spare of the moment. He said he expects to win, and they don't expect to be in a position to draft a quarterback like this again. So it made the most sense for the team. I liked the example that they gave. Yeah, 27 is a little bit older, but what are you going to do? They made the decision that they made. So
Yeah, and I heard somebody else bring up it's going to be like Any Given Sunday, right? Where it's just, I don't know if you ever seen Any Given Sunday, where like the old school like Dan Marino type quarterback, the veteran, and then you got Jamie Foxx, who's available. Here's the young, up and comer. 25 years old, by the way, is currently the age for Jordan Love. So according to Josh, according to the interwebs, he's younger than you thought.
Any Given Sunday is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It is. It's fun. It's it's ridiculous and whatever, but it's good. It's fun. I haven't seen it in a long time. Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Lawrence Taylor. I think isn't Lawrence Taylor in it?
Lawrence Taylor. I seen it in theaters. My dad took me. I think he regretted taking me like 5 minutes in. So I was very young. But
you were too young for the movie. Yeah, fair enough.
I was too young for the movie. Yeah.
There was a TV show on ESPN that was also like not NFL approved. I don't think that like was doing well, but they had to essentially cancel it because the NFL, they were like using like drugs in the locker room. If anybody's old enough to recall,
I remember this.
What was the name of that show? It was on like a year, and it was just gone. Like it never happened. And because the NFL's like, hey, look, you're a partner with us, right? This doesn't make us look very good. Yeah. Let us know in the chat. What was that? Well, according to Mabs, the Replacements is better than Any Given Sunday. That's a hot take. Replacements is fine.
Replacements is good.
But it's not better than Any Given Sunday. Maybe one of these days we'll have to power rank movies. Yes, Alvin in chat with Playmakers. That's the name of the show. Yeah,
I remember that
was the name of the show.
Playmakers.
I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. It might just be gone off the planet for all we know. The NFL bought the rights and threw it in the garbage can. Like nobody could ever watch this ever again. All right, let's give the screenshot as far as the pictures today. But I should mention weather. Precipitation-wise, we should be good. Last update we got in Chicago was the only one that had a non-green yellow for the White Sox today, according to Roth. I'll be Roth. I'll read on his behalf. Again, he'll be on later, give you an update if anything is necessary. I'm optimistic about rain timing and think we likely play without issue between storm systems. Cool temps with winds blowing in from centerish at 15 miles per hour. Solid pitching weather, Tampa at the White Sox. Not that you need solid pitching weather to say, hey, I'm going to pick on the White Sox, but that certainly doesn't hurt. Winds out right to center field, 10, 15 miles per hour for the Angels. I don't think winds really matter much in that ballpark. But yeah, everything else seems fine. Atlanta winds are blowing in at 10 miles per hour. It's pretty cool in a lot of spots. I thought there was a chance we can get the roof open in Texas today, but I went on the Twitter feed, the Globe Life, Globe Field, Global Gym, whatever it is for Texas. They are closing the roof there in Texas, so that's not happening. I thought that would be a good spot to exploit if the roof will be open, but it's not expected to be open. So yeah, I think pitching is kind of dominating the slate, which is sort of weird to say, and it's too cold most places weather-wise. Yeah, general view when it comes to the slate. I guess let's start with pitchers. Are you taking any definitive stands when it comes to pitchers? I'm going to pull up the current ownership stuff right now. Corbin Burns, one of, if not the best pitcher taking the bump tonight. The K rate is not spectacular. I know Dave talked about it. It's not bad, but it's not elite. Like 25% it was last year, 25%. That's what it is this year. Of course, he's taking on Oakland. Oakland is a bad team that lost their best hitter. I guess arguably their best hitter in Geloff. He went on the IL. The ballpark there in Baltimore these days is much more pitcher-friendly than it used to be. So ownership does reflect that. 31% is currently the number here for Corbin Burns on DK specifically. And then it's pretty even. It's pretty flat, right? It's kind of spread out. 31% for Burns, 20% for Sale, F1 at 20%, Ober at 17, Gallen 15, Eovaldi 14, Lewis Heel at 13, Crawford at 12. We'll dig into more names, but I guess wherever you want to start, but I think Burns is probably the good spot to start.
Yeah, Burns is the guy versus Oakland. For me, basically, I'm going to have at least one of Burns, Gallen, and Eovaldi in every lineup. I was thinking Nola just because Colorado coming out of San Diego coming out of Colorado. It's always a spot to pretty much attack, but Nola's just up at 10-3. And for me, like paying that price with all these other pitchers, I know the ownership would be decreased, but just seemed tough to get. So it's going to be Burns, Gallen, and Eovaldi. For Burns, like he's getting six right-handed batters, which is very strong for Burns, who I think is like 34% K rate to righties or something on the year, something ridiculous. Let me pull it up. 32% to right-handed batters. They threw in 6 of them in this Oakland lineup: Ruiz, Nevin, Shea Langeliers, Rooker, Daryl Hernandez, who I don't even know, and Max Scherzer. So I think there's 7 if I'm counting. No, there's 6. So yeah, I don't know. For me, Burns would be the one. I think that's pretty obvious, and it's going to show in the ownership like it is. Then from there, Gallen versus Seattle, I think, is in a very strong spot. Like, Gallen has been great all year. He's getting a situation with Seattle. They're striking out at 27% clip. But that's the thing, is like, people chase the strikeouts, and Seattle does have the power. So it is like a high variance spot at the top. Not like a high variance, but you have guys like Raleigh and Rodriguez who could get a hold of one, cause them some issues. Gallen currently to righties on the year is 34% to right-handed batters. His K percentage, 21 to lefties. So maybe a guy
He's reverse splitsy.
He's reverse splitsy?
Gallen, yeah.
So what are your thoughts? You
want to see let's see. Unless I'm making this up, I'm fairly certain. I'm stretching it back to let's go to the last 2 seasons, this season and last season. Let's kind of stretch that out. Okay. So versus lefties, 24.2%, versus righties, 25.5%, a little bit higher versus righties, right on right. Maybe it's a little bit more neutral. You know what? I think maybe he's changed. I don't know why in my head I was saying he's reverse splitsy. I thought that Cardi has him in the bat. Like, he just kind of says like what they are, if they're reverse splits, if they're neutral, that kind of thing. I could be making this up. Maybe it's got to be updated. It's kind of fluid. Maybe he's changed his pitch mix a little bit. But I thought, okay, so he's got him at neutral. Okay, so I feel like he used to be reverse splitsy, and now he's kind of a neutral pitcher. But okay, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, the left-right stuff really doesn't make a big difference to me. Like, he's essentially the same on both sides. Yeah,
Gallen's really good. That's pretty much, like, either way. Like, he's a really good play on the slate. Eovaldi versus Cincinnati. I will say, like, Eovaldi's the one that I'm having the most issues with. I think Gallen, like, Corbin Burns seems the safest, but they're all good pitchers. Eovaldi, I do worry about a guy like Ellie De La Cruz, but just from, like, current season, his strikeout rate to righties is around 20%. Lefties, it's 28%. They threw out all righties in this lineup outside of Cruz and Heimer, Candelario, and Benson. So I think that worries me a little bit. But yeah, maybe in my group where I have Burns, Gallen, and Eovaldi, maybe I'll change that to change Eovaldi out for a guy, or just add Chris Sale, because Chris Sale's in a phenomenal spot as well. Cleveland did great yesterday, but it's DFS, and we worry about today and today only, Dean. I know you love that saying.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. Like, Sale traditionally over his career has been really tough on lefties. Oh, they threw a ton of righties at him. Okay. Well, the best hitter in this lineup is a lefty. Naylor's a lefty.
J-Ram is switch hitter.
What?
Ramirez, he's a switch hitter.
No, I know he's a switch. Oh, yeah, so he's going to go from the right side, yeah. Versus yeah, my fault.
No worries.
Yeah, so they threw a ton of righties at him. I don't love Sale. So it'd be Eovaldi, Gallen, and Corbin Burns for me at the top that I really like. Eflin, we have the weather. He would be great. We know how bad the White Sox are in general and pretty much have been all year. I just worry about the pitch count. Like, what's the ceiling there?
That's the issue. But he can be really efficient and still, like, we can kind of run him down. And that's definitely worth talking about as far as Eflin. Maybe 75, 80 pitches or so. They just don't push him really hard. But the White Sox, they're a team that's not going to string together a bunch of hits and give you those 30 or 40 pitch innings unless you're, Pablo Lopez at that 40 pitch inning. But otherwise, I feel pretty good about him being efficient and probably getting 6-ish. Maybe get that QS for you over there on FanDuel. But, he's not going to get a complete game shutout. Like, that's just not in the cards. That's not going to happen. Wait, did the White Sox call up Tommy Pham? They got Tommy Pham now? Oh, all bets are off now.
Pham got promoted. They're definitely going off tonight then. That's what it – revenge for Tommy Pham too.
Was Tommy Pham a Ray?
He was a Ray. Yeah, of course he was a Ray.
Yeah.
I think they drafted him.
I feel like I remember as a Red Sox.
Cardinals. First. No, he was a Red Sox like late in his career.
Okay. Yeah, Cardinals makes sense as well. I think he got a couple $1 million as far as his promotion, so good for him. Lopez still leading off. Lopez, Pham, Grossman, Eloy, Vaughn, Benintendi, Mendick, DeYoung, and Maldonado. I mean, like, I'm joking, but like he is better than whatever was in there. Like, I'm not afraid of the White Sox, obviously. Yeah. And whatever is left of Tommy Pham's got it, I assume, has to be better. Whoever got kicked out of the lineup, right? Because it was just trash what they were throwing out there. You ran down a bunch of pitchers. The Cleveland thing, like Sale versus Cleveland, you're right. It's mostly all righties. There's two lefties, Kwan and Naylor, and they're really contact-heavy lefties, right? You know, Kwan at 10.2% left on left, 254 plate appearances. Like he's really annoying. There's no power, 74 ISO. He's not going to homer, but he might give you that 8 or 9 pitch at bat. It's just he's kind of patient, 8.3% as far as taking a walk. Josh Naylor, the other lefty. He's not going to walk, but he's probably not going to strike at 11.7%. But the back end is really, really strong for K's. If somehow Sale can go like 3 times through, and which is, dependent on how well he's pitching, but they have pushed him. I think he's thrown over 100 pitches at least once this season, which is nice to see. And a little bit surprising considering Atlanta's, injury issues with pitchers and Sale's injury history just in general. But, so he threw 89 last time, but 102 before that, 96 before that, 7-7 as far as little Seagram 7-7 his last 2 games as far as the innings pitched. So I think Sale can go 7 here and get decent chance to get that W as well. We don't need the win points, but we'll take them for sure. Minus 275 as far as Atlanta being a favorite against Cleveland and Logan Allen. If you can somehow get to that back half of the lineup 3 times. Lariano, 26% as far as K's. Arias, 44%, 130 plate appearances. That's a pretty decent sample to strike out 44% of the time. Hedges at 22%, and Rococo is at 35%. So there are some K's there. Tricky part is, you'd love for it to be flipped, obviously, where you get those guys first. It'd be nice if there's like an opener that comes in, and then like all of a sudden Sale comes in like in the second and like starts with Loreno. But that's not the case. Openers are kind of no longer a thing. Remember Tampa used to do that every single day? I guess that's kind of gone. On occasion we'll see it. But
I thought that was the way the league was trending because of like some data or whatever. But I guess it's not a thing, and it was disproven. Maybe they had a large enough sample size, Dean, to say this isn't a thing.
Yeah.
You're a big sample size guy. I'm a little shorter sample size when it comes to baseball. You don't believe in hot streaks. I do. You don't believe in BBP. I think it matters somewhat occasionally.
The hot streaks thing is very simple. It's like there are hot streaks I guess are real, but you don't know when they start. You don't know when they stop until you have the entire sample of here's a 162 game sample, and you say, okay, he got hot in game 15. He was hot all the way up to game 26, and here's where he got cold. He was cold for the next 10. But the DFS angle, we can't pinpoint when he's in the middle of it when it's going to stop, because even if hot streaks are a thing, and I guess they are, sure, why not? You don't know when it's going to stop. You're not going to be hot forever, right? So, what do we do with that information?
I'm with you.
Your friend.
I was breaking them on you, Dean. So you spoke to Elfin. I just want to say he can be efficient, right? He has the pitcher's ump, and you're a big extreme pitchers guy. I see the pitchers on, but I'm like fine with that. And he's getting the White Sox. Zach Gallen has the EP, I'm pretty sure. So I think that's a bump to him whenever I kind of do my exposure. I don't know.
I have to note this always, right? When the series starts, brand new series, the umpires are it's not in cement. It's not 100%. It's not certain. Sometimes on occasion, they will change. They will flip on you. Of course, once the series starts, you know how they rotate, so you can predict them going forward. But, again, that's probably going to be the case when it comes to the umpires. Just be aware that sometimes will change. There are 2 extremes, like you're saying, 2 extreme pitchers umpire. We got that Doug Eddings and Esterbrook for, the Arizona-Seattle game and the Mets and St. Louis. I know you're talking about it there.
Go ahead.
Can
we talk about a pitcher in that Mets and St. Louis game? We got a good ball. Or you're not interested on this slate? I have one for you. interested.
I'm willing to listen. Go ahead. Sell me on somebody. I just hope it's not Michaelis.
It's not Michaelis. It is not Michaelis. It is Jose
Okay.
Butto, or Butto,
Yeah.
however you say his name. 47%. No, 41. 40. Wait, what? That can't be right. I don't know. Anyways, the better analysis is the Cardinals are gutless. Good pitching park for Butto. 21% K's on the right side for the Cardinals. Lefties 20%. I don't know. I just think with the extreme pitcher, he'd be someone I'm interested in on the low side. Same with Heel in the Milwaukee game, who's been fantastic.
I'm proud of you for saying Heel, by the way.
Yeah, I would prefer Heel or whatever, but to Butto, but I just like the EP there. So both those guys are going to be my pool. I don't know about you. You're only building one team, so you're probably not getting to those guys. But
I make more than one, but I have like one like kind of sort of main team, I suppose. And like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be playing Jose. It's probably Buto, but I won't correct you. I don't know for certain, but I'm fairly certain it's Buto. But is our guy Butto in chat?
That's why I like
playing Buto?
That's why I said Butto, because Butto Jenkins in chat. You know?
I don't know if he is lurking or not, but I'm curious if he is interested. All right, so dating back to last season, the walks are a bit troublesome. 13.1%. That's way too high for me. The Ks are fine, 24.1%. Oh, so you're looking at this year versus righties.
I was looking at that's what I 47% to righties this season. Like what?
This is the sample conversation, Bobby. It's 34 hitters.
But I thought it was. Yep, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
that's why I mean that's say the number out loud and sound like a donkey.
I mean, it's not true, but it's also like that's not sustainable. Unless you think he's the greatest pitcher of all time. Unless you think he's Paul Skeens, who I think has got like a 50% K rate right now in the minor leagues or something goofy like that. It is a pretty contact-heavy St. Louis lineup as well. Really the only guys that swing and miss a fair bit. Nolan Gorman at 33%, Goldie at 24%, Crawford at 23%. He's terrible. And Ciani's awful as well. Several guys, by the way, the rookie's not quite ready for the show. I guess not a rookie. Walker for St. Louis sent back down to AAA, and we saw Jackson Holliday, Matt's kid. Speaking of the Cardinals, I guess he's more known as a Rocky. But Jackson Holliday was sent down from Baltimore. He was really scuffling. I know he was like 1 for 30 at one point. But all right, just wanted to note that the St. Louis.
I didn't know that was Matt Holliday's kid.
You didn't know this?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you remember Matt Holliday, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, he put fantastic player for the Colorado Rockies, right?
Yeah, I mean he was a part of that
World Series
Bombers.
Yeah, World Series team. They played the Red Sox. They got swept. I went to that World Series, one of those games.
The Rockies play the Red Sox in the World Series. Why don't I remember this?
You don't remember this?
I vaguely remember the Rockies in the World Series. I do not remember them playing the Red Sox. I remember the Red Sox versus the Cardinals.
I think I'm pretty sure it was the Rockies.
It certainly could have happened. I just don't recall. It's absolutely possible, but I just don't remember this scenario. That stacking the Rockies back in the day, like old Mild High, Andres Galarraga, Big Cat, Bichette. Who was there? Vinny Castilla. Remember Vinny Castilla?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're old enough for Vinny Castilla, but all right. Hoosiers is telling me to check the almanac. Look, I'm not saying Bobby's wrong. I'm just saying I don't remember. To be clear, I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Pretty sure they did. Like I'm pretty positive.
And Todd Helton, of course, backed up Peyton Manning at Tennessee.
Stud, absolute stud.
Or maybe Peyton Manning backed him up, but Peyton Manning might have backed him up there at Tennessee. Okay, yeah, we are getting derailed. Yeah, no, I believe you. I have a machine. I can just type this. It's wild. You can just type it in. Like, did this happen?
Google machine. Yeah, no, I get
you. It's incredible. Technology is wild. You were talking about groups, which I thought was pretty interesting. Explain that, because I don't think most people do that when it comes to pitchers. You do groups for other stuff, but because you're saying like I want to have one of these three guys. Explain your theory or your approach, and what are your groups when it comes to pitchers tonight?
I'm having difficulty splicing the top tier pitchers like Corbin Burns, Eovaldi, all the ones we mentioned. So yeah, I have at least 3 of Burns, Gallen, and Eovaldi. I guess you could throw Sale in there. Once I seen that lineup, I X Sale out. Maybe I'll throw Elfin instead with the pitcher's umpire that you don't really care for. But I don't
wanted to give him an extreme, but you were almost there. But it's not extreme, right? It's just
it's
pitcher's umpire.
Yeah, I'm fine with the pitcher's umpire.
And the wind's blowing in, and he's facing the White Sox.
Yeah, so those are pluses. Like that way, you got to do the scale game like that. Those are 3 jelly beans on the scale in his direction, right?
Let me see if there's anything in that shows up in Weather Edge for that game.
And while you're looking at that, Dean, I've got some group thoughts I'll throw in too. One of the things I like to do when I'm
actually Devin, don't give those. We don't want these thoughts.
Too
I
sharp.
want Devin's thoughts.
What I'll do basically, if I'm running a 150 build to test and see what lineups like come out, I will sort by the highest projected own. I'll take like right now we got Burns, Sale, Eflin, top 3 owned. I'll put them in a build, put a group order of 1, and make that max at 60% or 70%. So it forces max of one of those chalky pitchers.
Okay.
And 60 or 70% of my lineup. So it forces some differentiation in other ways.
That's like a roundabout way. It's a different way of basically setting the rule because it's not a hard and fast, but you're essentially doing the same thing. I like that.
And sometimes I'll combine it with what Bobby's saying, where he has like a group of pitchers he really likes, and I'll put those in a group, say max of 1 or at least 1, max of 2, and then just let that run.
By the way, White Sox today, as far as the ballpark conditions, 55 degrees, temperature 14 miles per hour, basically blowing in from dead center. Now, it's not a huge sample size, Bobby. It's just 22 games. But it checks out with the story. The story that we're telling, a hit as far as homers at 25%, a hit as far as runs when it comes to 11%. So when the story all checks out, then I buy it more. But like if for some reason it said homers spike like 30%, I'd say, well, something goofy happened in this games. And the sample's not big enough. So maybe that's just me trying to manipulate the data. But now I believe it because it's like, okay, small sample, but it all makes sense. Right?
What if it's one game, Dean, and it's like plus 200 to home run like increase?
Nonsense.
The wind's blowing out 20% to right field. Is that a big enough sample size?
Well, I mean, you got to use your brain hole sometimes. Like you understand. 20, like so, there's not a huge
right field. Whatever.
There's not a huge sample for the Mexico City games. Mexico City games this weekend. It's Houston and somebody. I think they're not playing today. There's 2 teams that are not playing today. I believe they're traveling to Mexico City. I know Cardi was way into this last year. He's probably going to be way into it again. I don't know if you remember these games. One game was like 6-4 or something like that. Maybe it was the Padres and the Astros last year. The Padres and somebody, I think. I don't recall. But the total in that game was like 15.5 or 16.5. Just if you're playing this weekend, just take note of that. The totals in the Mexico City game is going to be outrageous. Somebody tell me in chat who's playing in Mexico City. I think it's Houston.
Isn't that 2 miles above sea level?
Yeah, it's above. Yeah, it's higher than Colorado, and I think the dimensions of the ballpark don't even reflect it unless they changed it. It's possible, I suppose, they might have changed it, but I don't think. I think it's the same destination. I think it's the same ballpark. I'm always curious to see what we get when it comes to the total. It's like 14.5 or some kind of really big goofy number. According to Tom in chat, Houston and Colorado. I think that makes sense, right? Because Colorado's not in the slate. I don't think you're playing an afternoon game. I think that would make sense. Can Colorado's like, this team is so bad they can't take advantage of Coors, the elevation in Denver. Let's give them the elevation of Mexico City. And if they don't hit homers there, relegation. That's it. They got to kick them out of the league. Where else can they put them? On the moon? Where else can they play to hit home runs? That seems fair.
Them and the White Sox relegation. Just get rid of them.
Speaking of moonballs, Giancarlo Stanton will not be hitting any tonight. He's not playing baseball. At least he's not starting the game. No Stanton for the Yankees. Just saw that lineup come on through for us. Lots of lineups coming in through. Let's see. We're still waiting for Pittsburgh and San Fran. That's not surprising. They're playing on the West Coast. We got Philly and San Diego, Arizona, Seattle. Corbin Carroll is still hitting. He's hitting in the 7 hole. He's been, if you look at the StatCast stuff, it is rough. His hard hit percent is like in the 3rd percentile. It's not good. I don't want to make any rash assumptions, but maybe it's an issue with his shoulder. That was an issue last year. Maybe it didn't fully come back. Yankees, Volpe, Soto, Judge, Rizzo, Torres, Verdugo, Cabrera, Wells, and Trent Grisham locked in for 9 at Milwaukee. Pretty sure they're going to close the roof there, but I did not get confirmation. I think we have every other lineup. Is that right? I believe
Are the
so.
Yankees better without Stanton in the lineup, though?
Well, I mean, it's the tricky thing is like if you could theoretically throw a pitcher at Stanton every single time, you would do it, right? Like if you can roster a pitcher that gets to face Mike Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, every single at bat, you might give up a homer or two, but you probably have like 13 strikeouts. I think your upside's higher with him in there, but he's also a guy. It's just more variance, I think, with Stanton in there, as opposed to what I guess Grisham took the spot. All right. So I'm going to give a refresh and see if anything new as far as ownership, if anything's kind of changed. Are you taking any big stands? You were talking about making, one of these 3 guys or no more than these 2, no more than one of these, that kind of thing when it comes to the pitchers. But are you making any stands as far as I'm not going to be over the field on Burns 31%? And again, the next tier is they're all just kind of together, mostly Sale, Eflin, Ober, Gallen, Eovaldi. They're all kind of in the teens, right to the 20 spot or so. Eric in chat is saying Nola is his big stand. Not really on Nola. I think he's fine, but it's just not in this slate is sort of my answer to that. Luis Gil is, he'll walk a bunch of guys. He'll strike out a bunch of guys. I think he's an interesting variance play. If he's only 13%, I think you probably should be a little bit over than that. Who's your biggest stand as far as over the field and your biggest stand as far as under the field? This, of course, can change, subject to change.
Yeah, so I'm making more stands within my lineups for my stacks, but I think I'll definitely have be over the field on Luis Gil and Jose Butto. So I want to get all the bats.
I don't think it's hard to get over the field on, let's see, Butto is currently 10%, 7.1K. We did get a pitching change, by the way. The Marlins, they got another injury potentially. Luzardo was scratched, and he's going to have an MRI. Just a terrible year for the Marlins, getting worse. I wish that game was in Washington because I think that game's really interesting. If it was, you could still play some guys and some cheapies. We'll talk some stacks in a bit. But Washington at Miami, tough ballpark there. But
there are pitchers we haven't talked about, Dean. Just throw it out there.
Okay. Tell me who you want to talk about that we haven't talked about.
Cutter Crawford for 1 versus Cubs lineup. I think the hitting weather isn't great in Fenway tonight. I was just outside. It was pretty chilly. So I like him. And for larger field stuff, I would throw in Shota. The Red Sox, just doing the deep dive, they stink. They're not good. They get Tyler
O'Neill's back.
Tyler O'Neill back tonight, but lineup isn't great. So I think for larger field stuff, Shota would make my pool. Cutter Crawford, I'm thinking about throwing in that Gil and Butto little rotation that I have going on there. Just think versus the Cubs without Bellinger, he's in a pretty good spot. Is he reversed?
By the way, that matchup?
Yeah.
Who are you asking about?
Crawford.
I think he might be neutral to reverse. I don't think it's a big difference as far as a split. Let's see. What's neutral? Yeah, according to the bat, he is neutral. But if you dig into the stats, it might be a little reverse splitsy.
His K percentage to lefties this year, I know that doesn't matter, is around 34%. Last year it was 26%. Righties, he's a little bit worse. So I don't know. I like Cutter Crawford tonight with going against a Bellinger-less Cubs team a little bit, and then Showed on the other side for larger field stuff because the Red Sox stink.
We don't talk a lot of ERA here, right? At least I don't talk a lot of ERA. But 26 pitchers throwing baseballs tonight. The 2 lowest ERAs in the slate. Cutter Crawford, 66 is his ERA, 66. Imanaga's ERA, 84. So the 2 lowest ERAs in that game. Now Imanaga's been really lucky. 3.4% as far as homer to fly ball. The BABIP's 224. The BABIP for Crawford is 235. Both their Sierras are still pretty good in the 3s, but they've been pretty lucky. Imanaga 2.4% as far as walks. That's spectacular as well. he's also a lefty, and the best hitters for Boston are left-handed hitters, some of their best hitters, right? Devers. And Duran, you have O'Neill there with the power. I do think that Christopher Morel is a really interesting one-off, or if you want to make little minis as far as Chicago. I don't really want to pick on Crawford in this slate. Like you said, the weather's not spectacular, but Crawford being kind of like neutral, you can tell yourself he's a first split if you want to. And the monster and Christopher Morel, that feels like a really, really interesting one-off, if nothing else. Is there somebody you're just Xing out, like that's going to get some ownership, that you, whatever reason you're just not in on? You talk about not liking Sale so much.
Yeah, after we went through that lineup, I X Sale. But if you think about it in terms of lineup construction, Sale's probably going to be the lower owned of the higher priced pitchers, and he correlates well with the Braves. So it might be a bad decision at the end of the night, but currently I just X'd him.
All right. Devin's hanging out too. I know Devin's digging in. He's playing some DFS. He's got some thoughts as well, obviously. Devin, is there something we missed, something we didn't talk about, something we should focus on? Is there a stand you want to throw out there, you know, through your research that you like?
I actually really liked the Cutter Crawford take. That was one that I was surprised that he was coming in so low. I think he's going to be worth it a little bit.
I think he's good. Like, I think he's like, their whole pitching staff's been good since spring training. I think Cutter Crawford's actually, it's like the lone bright spot on this team.
Do you know about their philosophy? You know what the Boston's doing? Have you heard about this? Have you read about this?
All curveballs. Yeah.
Yeah, they significantly lower than everybody else. They're just not throwing like that. They're throwing much more breakers, and it's showing in the numbers that he's, like, at least so far in the small sample, Boston, like you said, the offense has been inept, but their organizational philosophy of not throwing a ton of fastballs has been working out for them. So, and I don't know if that small sample stuff, I don't know if that stuff is real or not. Other teams are like, let's just throw 101 and you throw 101, and then that's how injuries happen sometimes too. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but somebody mentioned Mason Miller in chat. Not rooting for it, but like that dude's throwing 102, 103. But the worst team in baseball too. So they should probably consider if you can move him. I don't know. I don't know what you can get for, you know, the best reliever in baseball, at least today. All right. Anything else, Devin, you want to mention as far as pitchers?
Butto, agree there. And our resident crazy man, Eric, in chat saying thoughts on Bassett against the Dodgers.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk Ober, anyone? Anyone want to hit on Ober before we jump to hitting Zach?
Cheese had some interest in the musings.
Can we read? Let's read what Cheese wrote up on Ober. I think
it is free. I think if I recall, I think he was talking about comparing Heel to Ober, and he was basically saying he wants to see where the ownership lands amongst those two. If I'm recalling correctly. Does that sound familiar, Devin? I read this earlier today.
My hunch is that Ober ends up more popular than Gill, and while I feel far more confident in Ober, I would prefer to be overweight on Heel if that turns out the case.
I think Heel's got a bigger upside but a lower floor, and if you're shooting for upside, I think Heel's the upside guy, but Ober's fine too. That's sort of my take. Where do we have those two as far as ownership? Are they basically the same? I think they're
Ober
similar.
is at 17, Heel's at 13. DK.
Stevie went over Heel's advanced stuff on the morning grind, and Heel's been phenomenal. I know I told you to play him a week and a half ago, Dean, and you neglected to listen to me. And he pitched
You really
Tim told me not to play him, is what happened. I was going to, but Tim overrode you. And again, the power rankings, Tim had final, he had final rankings.
I'm the third wheel. I get it.
Well, the issue with Heel is his walks, right? So this season, he's got 20.2% walks. That's unacceptable.
I was hoping Heel would get the EP and not Butto or Butho or whatever, because I wanted the extreme pitchers on for Heel tonight. That was like what I was hoping for all day, and then I didn't get it. So that made me a little upset. So it pushed Butto up more in my rankings, and Butto gets the Cardinals, so it's not that bad.
Let's look at this. Let's look at Milwaukee, how patient this lineup is. I think that's important because I want Heel to face guys that are going to chase. And they're pretty patient. That is the problem, right? If you pull up the plate IQ, you see Frelick at 11.7% leading off. That's a really good number for being patient. Contreras, 9.9%. Adames, 9.6%. Hoskins, 9.6%. Perkins, 13.4%. The first five guys are all in the green when it comes to being patient. And again, Heel at 20.2% walks. That's an unacceptable number. Like, you can't be in the majors in theory. Now the Ks are 34.5%. So This is like if Adam Dunn was a pitcher.
Are we out on Heel then? I think that you make a good case. That's like a jelly bean against Heel.
Yeah.
It's just he's got the biggest range of outcomes. He could strike out. I think actually Dave had a great line.
You want the variance with how good the pitching is on this slate currently. Like you're just embracing more variance that you don't need.
There are enough good options that you don't really have to take risk.
So I think I'd prefer Butto and Crawford over Heel. Yeah, I'm going to X Heel with Dean's insight there.
Well, again, he could strike out 10. Like that could happen too. There's a scenario where he's the highest scoring pitcher on this slate. And here, this is also quoting from Dave's article. When he's off, he walks 7 batters like he did 2 starts ago. When he's on, he can strike out 9 batters like he did 1 start ago. So, I don't know which one he's going to do. And he's only going to be in the middle as well, but he's got a huge range. He's going to strike out a bunch of guys, going to walk a bunch of guys. He also has a fly ball lean, and Milwaukee traditionally not the most forgiving ballpark for fly balls. Now the Brewers not the best lineup, especially
giving jelly
Yelich.
beans not playing Heel. That's what you're putting them on the scale more and more. I think for my first 20 lineups, if I was building 150, Heel would obviously be in the pool. But for my 17 teams or whatever, I'm getting less and less of Heel the more we have this conversation.
Interpret the information however you want to interpret the information, but that is the information because I think you can play him. But I also think it's scary because he's also a guy that even if he's pitching well, he's still going to be around the plate, and he has 87 pitches after 4 and 7 strikeouts, and he's not going to go very deep.
If you're talking about the 4 pitchers in the low salary range, Crawford, Heel, Butto, and Ober, like he's falling behind those guys. That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, you could literally just take Butto from that entire group that you just listed.
Yeah.
In my mind, I don't see any reason. Like, I might actually do that. Is I guess what I'm speaking to.
I think Butto and Crawford.
I mean, he's got a good ballpark, Budo, but and the Cardinals are not a team I'm afraid of at all. So I guess you have that going for him. And I think if he sticks around, 5 innings, I think he gets the win. I feel hesitantly. I feel pretty good about the Mets today. Just it's BABIP stuff, right? But I think the Mets get to Michaelis. That's sort of where I'm at. We'll talk about stacks in a second, but we should probably move on to stacks. Unless you got anything else, Bobby, when it comes to pitchers?
No, that's it. You've tired me out. You've worn me out here.
Well, I hope you still have some more energy. Get yourself a Jolt, a Red Bull or something, because you're still on for the next 25 minutes.
Just in, Dean. So we're moving. We'll be moving along here shortly.
I still don't know what that is. I'm not sure what. That gives you an extra boost of energy. I'm not really sure, but
it's like a little quick boost of Adderall. It's nicotine pouch, Dean.
Okay, not a sponsor on the show officially, but
I'll make a sponsor.
You got a meeting with Devin after the show. We'll figure it out. Do want to mention what is kind of sort of somewhat a sponsor is RotoGrinders, right? RotoGrinders Premium NBA. By the way, NBA game just started like 5:30. I don't know if you know that. There was a 5:30 game. There's 3 games going on. Weird timing as far as the schedule, but yeah, triple header in the association. NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB. If you want to get yourself RG Premium, there's 3 different options to do so, depending on how much you want to commit, how much you want to save. You commit to a 6-month combo sub, exclusive price. It's $469.99. That's a savings of $250, as opposed to if you were to go month by month by month by month. You don't want to commit to that? Sure, no worries. Get yourself 1 month. You get $40 off for a limited time. 1 month, you get these. Check out the description for links for this. And if you just want a 3-day pass, by all means, you can get a 3-day pass for $19.99. You get access to. Well, we gave you guys a taste of what Cheese's article looks like. Of course, the expert survey, the expert rankings, Plate IQ, lineup HQ, and this is for all the sports that we ran up before. Everything with the exception of NASCAR. You also get SimLabs. I know you're always digging into the SimLabs stuff as well, and that's probably a good segue into talking about our tiers. We'll be talking about some stacks today. Before we throw it up on the screen, we'll give the chat a second. Devin gave me the category. You don't know what it was, Bobby. I filled it out. I filled out the stacks today. You're going to tell me what's wrong. I filled it out like a chalk donkey, and you're going to say, well, you're a donkey. That's wrong. And that's fine. We'll manipulate it. But we have the board all set, and we'll kind of move it around as you see fit. but we power.
I just want to say prior to you doing this, I had no input in Dean's tiers today.
That's what I just said. Were you listening the last minute?
No, I wasn't. I was running SimLabs. Currently, I don't know if I'm a fan of the bit.
Of which bit? Like you're not even paying attention to whatever this
or whatever the tiers piece of content. I'm still a game by game guy at heart. You know.
Well, that's we'll take it up with Devin.
I don't want to poo-poo your tiers, but I don't know if I'm still like on the fence.
Well, it's just a fun way of looking at all the teams, just when it comes to where you rank the stacks. Take the ranking category out of it and just look at it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or that's a different way of doing it if you want to do it that way. But some people, the chat likes to play along sometimes as they're hitting that like button, as they're subscribing, as they're turning on those notifications. This is where we get their input because this is a hot button stuff, and I feel like you're going to have a take. This is Devin threw this category my way. Pizza toppings. Give me your best and worst pizza topping. Best and worst pizza topping in the chat. Go. And Bobby, you tell me.
Oh, my favorite pizza, probably just general pepperoni, but I like a lot of toppings.
That's the chalk, by the way, just so you know. Pepperoni's the chalk.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Like you're a chalk donkey when it comes to pizza.
I like jalapenos.
Oh, we're gonna fight. You're not gonna like the board, my friend.
I like sausages. I do not. It's not. You know what I mean. I didn't. I like.
No, I wasn't thinking anything otherwise.
I didn't want it to sound weird, but yeah, I don't know.
Seamless segue. Let's bring the board up. The chat, pepperoni won. Pepperoni is the chalk. I almost went anchovies as the worst, but I wasn't sure if people would.
Hawaiian pizza, dude.
What?
Oh, I guess that should be in the bottom. Pineapple.
Well, I will explain. Mushroom. Mushroom's number one. Number one on the board. Number 2 is pepperoni. By the way, and all the pizza makers gather around and listen. And Bobby, aren't you associated with pizza in some way, or Italian restaurants? Is your Italian restaurant?
Show and feeling kind of. I might have got the fish, Dean. I don't know.
Oh, you're not feeling great?
No, I'm fine, but I don't know. I ate a lot of it. I probably shouldn't have ate so much.
Why is cup pepperoni not the standard? Is my question to you, Bobby. Can you speak on behalf of pizza makers?
I don't know. Cup pepperoni's good, but regular is fine. Jalapeno should not be last. I don't know who made this little situation.
I just told you. Were you not listening? I gave a whole rundown, a whole setup to this.
Mushroom is
very clear.
I am fine with mushroom up top. Hawaiian's disgusting. Like I don't know. I can't do that.
So it's funny because Hawaiian, and obviously you can't rank everything, but mushroom's number 1. Cup pepperoni's fine, whatever, but cup pepperoni, that's elite. Sausage, I like it when it's sliced, not as good when it's crumbled. Give me a crumble sausage over the slice of sausage. Hawaiian, everybody has that hot take. Everybody either loves it or hates it. I think it's like fine. It's okay. I would never order it, but like I'm not like angry about it. People are very passionate, like you. You a great example, like Hawaiian. You were outraged. Like, that's not pizza. And then jalapenos. Like, what are we doing? Stop it. We've already perfected.
I like the grinded sausage, like you said too. The sliced sausage sucks.
Yeah, grind it up. Grind it up. It's much better. Let's see.
To be honest, like I like mushroom pizza. So.
The chat is giving me the business there. Not how is jalapeno the worst? Okay, I'm also heat sensitive, so I don't like anything basically spicy. So right there, that's a deal breaker. I'm out. There's a poll. Devin set up a poll nicely for you to say how wrong I was. How wrong is Dean on pizza toppings? Egregious, unreal. How is this? Meh. I could take it or leave it. Or oh baby, yeah. Which one do you think I'm voting for? Oh baby, yeah.
I think you personally, oh baby, yeah. I don't think it's egregious. Like this is actually a pretty good list. I was expecting worse. I would disagree with jalapenos being the one for all the bad teams.
Vinny making fun of me for being heat sensitive. Yeah, I don't deal well with heat. If I could never go on hot ones. I had to turn down the hot ones. I couldn't go on that show because I can't eat the hot wings, unfortunately. But they ended up getting Conan O'Brien instead. He subbed in. He did a great job subbing in for me. Spectacular. But let's talk about the stacks here, Bobby. Top tier. I have a lot of stuff in the middle. And again, weather's not great. Go ahead.
You don't like a lot of stuff in the middle, right? Though it's pretty condensed with bats. Like on slates like this, you just want to get over on the best bats. I agree with the majority of everything you're saying here. Like Braves, Dodgers, Yankees. Yankees, I would probably bump down, but like I don't know, because I put the Braves and Dodgers on a tier above all every day. And it hasn't been working out well because they've been terrible, but I can see the Yanks up at the top spot too, so fine with that. I don't know, mid-tier, yeah, everyone's kind of jumbled up there. I would go to like implied team totals and see who's moving.
Have you seen it? Have you noticed that? I know it's something you keep an eye on as the day progresses.
I have to pull it up. I'll pull it up on my phone. Rays moved a little. White Sox moved a little. Seattle, Arizona. I like the Orioles. Like the Orioles, if they were in Camden Yards, I'd probably be more. Are they? They're in Oakland.
I got good news for you, Bobby. They're in Camden Yards.
They're in Camden.
It's still not great though. It's better than Oakland, but it's not great these days, obviously. But they are in Baltimore.
It's not as good as it was previously. I don't know. Yeah, Orioles work. Mets. I know why you like the Mets because of Miguelot. I just hate that park. Arizona, Texas. Those I don't have like a ton of disagreements here. Like we're pretty much on. I would maybe no. I don't know. I don't have a ton of disagreements.
I was hoping we would disagree. That's just because it makes for a more interesting conversation.
I want to pull up who I actually built. I have Baltimore stacked. I have the Dodgers. I have Washington, Miami, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Texas, the Yankees, Minnesota, Arizona, Seattle, Pittsburgh, and San Fran. Where do you have Pittsburgh and San Fran?
I got Pittsburgh and Hawaiian, the 4th tier. I just hate that ballpark in and I have San Fran and Sausage in the middle. Just because Priester doesn't, theoretically he's supposed to be good one day, and we haven't seen a ton of him, obviously. But he just might not be it. Might not be ready just yet. But
I'm a big weather guy.
I have a hard time playing San Fran. But go ahead.
I'm a big weather guy, and I actually believe in Roth's weather edge tool, unlike Roth, who couldn't even go with a 1-game sample size with his own tool. The winds were blowing out 20 miles per hour to right field, and they were all lefties on the Orioles in Milwaukee. He just didn't want to play it. He said it wasn't a big enough sample size, but Ryan O'Hearn hit a home run as like first at bat. For me, they have the biggest bump. It's like 134 games, I'm pretty sure. In weather edge, let me see the samples.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot of big bumps weather today. It's just not good.
11% to home runs, plus 2.8 to total runs, 2.8% to total runs. So I like Pittsburgh.
How do you feel about StatCast, Bobby? You mentioned Ryan O'Hearn. StatCast stuff, Ryan O'Hearn. Ex-WOBA, he's in the 100th percentile. Ex-batting average, the 100th percentile. Ex-slug, the 100th percentile. Go ahead.
You were listening to the Morning Grind, I see.
No,
Stevie.
I've been talking about Ryan O'Hearn for weeks and talking
Stevie
about.
Brought this up on the Morning Grind earlier. The Morning Grind, by the way, you should be listening to the Morning Grind every day. Like
I'm protesting it now. Stevie won't have me on as a guest.
I wouldn't have you on either, Dean. I don't even like doing this show with you. Why would I? You know what I mean? Why would I? If I had my own show, why would I invite you on? You know.
Oh, I don't know. You need a foil, I suppose. But
I will say I have one complaint with your tier here, Dean. I think, and this may be one of my calls tonight. Mini stack of Tampa Bay, Diaz, or Rosarena, Paredes.
So I think Tampa Bay should be in the pepperoni tier.
I could take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to play Tampa Bay. They're just such a weird team. They get their runs like not.
I went through Play IQ today for Tampa Bay, and they hit my step before I put in like certain groups and stuff. Tampa Bay hit a lot of my, Rosarena, Paredes, everything Devin just said.
This is confirmed.
Have you heard how bad the ballpark is today in Chicago? Historically, it's a good ballpark to hit baseballs, but whether you can't be saying two different things here, Bobby, because you're just touting how you love small samples. And the small sample says it's tough to hit baseballs today in Chicago.
Well, I just have to cover both sides, right? You know, I think Devin did make the qualifier that you could play them as more of like a
outside of those three, I really am not super interested in the whole team.
Yeah, but I did kind of struggle with that one, and I almost elevated them. It's funny you mentioned that, but there's not a ton of power on Tampa, right? Palacios, Rosarena, Paredes. Flexen is reverse splitsy, by the way, historically. Let's see, dating back to last season. Strikeouts versus righties, 13%. It's not great against lefties either, 18.4%. ISO dating back to last season, 256 versus righties. So the numbers definitely play out that he's reverse splitsy. So Paredes, Rosarena, even Diaz, but Diaz is just not enough power, right? But Tampa also playing in a bad ballpark, but the conditions today also suggest the ballpark is not spectacular. But I will sign off on a mini stack for Tampa. And that's kind of like I play some Tampa minis. I love CJ Abrams on Washington. I don't know how deep I'm going to get on Washington, but this Marlins, I guess it's going to be kind of a bullpen game, right? I'm not sure how stretched out. What's this dude's name that's throwing baseballs today for the Marlins? I don't think he's ever pitched in the majors. Why am I losing his name? I can't quite get to it. So, Anthony Maldonado, which just sounds like a great player. I'm pretty sure he's never thrown. Say it again.
He replaced Luzardo. It was supposed to be this guy today.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I don't think he's a prospect. I just want to confirm. He's 26 years old. I tend to know the Marlins system decently. Yeah, he's 20th ranked according to Fangraphs in the Marlins system. 6'4", 220. I was trying to see if he's stretched out and what to expect. But again, that Washington offense without Lane Thomas is not very good. But Abrams, we don't do a position by position. Crunch Time does that. But man, shortstop is just loaded. Doing my rankings today, like just kind of running down shortstops, just like individual positions. Abrams, Volpe, Henderson, Betts, Seager, Mr. Smile, Lindor, De La Cruz, Trey Turner, Bichette, Adames. And then you look at like third base, and it's like third base is a wasteland. After Muncy, I like the lefties versus the Hound, Bassett. I know Muncy's batting average this year is not, we don't care about batting average, but he's got the ability to hit 2 home runs. That's what we care about. By the way, you should mention JD Martinez is playing baseball today for the Mets. So they got him back. And Ozzy Albies is back for Atlanta. You were talking about Atlanta's team total getting a bump. Maybe that had something to do with it because
they didn't get a bump. They're just a high team like they are. I think they're 4.8 or whatever. I don't even know, 5.1 currently.
Yeah.
So it's just like typical Atlanta team total, no movement.
I mean, Adam Duvall's hitting 9th. He's not the perfect hitter, but he's got some power. Arcia's hitting 8th. And we know Ozuna's been smashing, or Darno's been smashing. Acuna stealing bases at least, if nothing else. But Atlanta. So you agreed, right? Atlanta, the Dodgers, and the Yankees, that kind of in their own tier tonight. You were kind of there was no disagreement there.
Yeah, the Yankees, I would put Atlanta and the Dodgers and bump the Yankees down, but they're fine to fit. They're if the Dodgers are 1A, 1B, the Yankees are. If the Dodgers are both 1A, then the Yankees are 1B, I guess.
Dean, can I take the steering wheel for 5 minutes?
Yeah, go for it. What do you got?
I just want to translate this tiers to what the viewers can use this actionable info from. So mushrooms tier, Yankees, Braves, Dodgers. What I might do, go to stacks here, and if I choose my 5-2 stacks, and obviously 100% of those.
Obviously.
Wait, why?
You can't build a line any other way?
Don't do that. Do not do that. I think that's the worst way to play. Like, that is literally the worst way to play.
He's an elitist. Evan's an elitist.
All right, so we're gonna keep on driving because I've got the wheel. We're gonna go ahead and put 40% on the Yankees. What was it? The Braves, and then who was the other one?
33% for all three of them in your.
We'll do that. Yeah, 33. Yeah, it was Yankees. Who else?
Braves and Dodgers.
33, and then Dodgers. Where are they at? I'm missing them. I know I am. There they are.
Scrolling past them.
Yeah. So there we have total max exposure 99%. That'll be close. But basically what we're going to do is we're telling Lineup HQ we want a lot of those 3 teams in our main stacks. And as I said, Tampa Bay as a mini stack would be great. So let's go ahead and go to Tampa Bay 100%.
100%.
And then we can run those builds.
See, I do it similarly. It's pretty much the same, but I'll X out stacks that I'm not playing and then divide.
Yeah, this is definitely succinct for the demonstration purposes, but when we're ranking these teams, we're saying these are the ones we want to prioritize.
Devin's got an 8-hour PowerPoint presentation, called The Pitch. If you're interested, I'm sure there's a link in the description that you'll go into more detail. But we only have like five minutes or so, 10 minutes before we throw
$40 off your first month.
Derek Carty just threw a cease and desist on you too, as well, I believe. But how do you do it, Bobby? Because it also, like, again, there's other stuff you can get into with lineup HQ. Like, there's certain players that I would click only in stacks. Like, I'm not gonna play like Guillermo when he was playing for Atlanta. Like, I would never play Guillermo if I was making a bunch of lineups. Ideally, if I'm gonna play him, I don't want to play him. Just play him because he's cheap. But I would do it in a stack. He's not the kind of guy he can't do it by himself. He's not gonna bang out 2 homers. He's not gonna steal 7 bases, that kind of thing. He needs his teammates. What is your slight twist, if you don't mind, Bobby, as far as how you're probably getting to the same place, just doing it different ways?
Yeah, I don't use the only in stacks a ton. I'll use it, but like if they're a chalky one-off and people are going to play them in cash games, like I still want them to hit my teams. In terms of stacks, like if you go back to stacks, like I'll take everyone out of my pool. Like, first of all, 5-3 I just think is the worst way to play. Like, if you just say, oh, I'm going to run all 5-3 stacks, like, I think a lot of the time, I think that was the consensus for a while, and I just think it's the wrong. Like, if you run, I just ran SimLabs and looking at stacks, 4-3s hitting 24% of the time, 5-1, 24% of the time, 5-2, 19% of the time, 4-2, 18% of the time. 5-3 currently is coming out at 3% in small field situations. So if you're in larger field stuff, you can also incorporate 5-3s, but I think you want one-offs. Squirrel talked about this on a show. Like, you want to be able to get over on certain one-offs. And when you have 5-3s, it kind of limits you from being able to do that. Also, like, I would just go down to like the check boxes for the stacks. Like, I'll X out everyone. So I'll just X out, go Dodgers, Yankees, hit Dodgers, Yankees, Atlanta, 33% for all 3 of those as a main stack. And then for my secondary stacks, I have 25% for the Dodgers, 25% for Atlanta, and then 5% for Baltimore, Washington, Miami, Tampa Bay, Texas, the Yanks.
You're trying to get that one off that, like, it's in the game that you're not fully playing.
Arizona,
That's what it sounds like.
Pittsburgh, and San Fran, like the teams that I think are worth stacking, usually based off implied team total. See, unlike Blender, I'll give away my secret sauce. I don't need to hide it.
Well, Blender tells you exactly what to do. He says, play whatever you want.
Play whatever you want. Yeah. He won't tell me what the diversity is to play on Sim. I know he knows to the number. He knows.
How do you know he knows? It's quite the accusation.
He's friends with that guy who's super smart. What's his name? McCool?
Mondays with McCool?
Yeah. So that, I would imagine his stuff's back tested. So he knows what numbers you're supposed to be playing in terms of diversity and stuff.
Michael in chat says, why stack when you can just pick 8 guys on different teams who double dong? That seems easy too. Why can't you can't just pick out the homers? Guys are going to hit 2 home runs. They play for different teams. Who cares?
I can't.
That's 16 home runs.
If you can do that, go play the lottery,
Yeah, it's Eric wants to know why no Philly. I'm okay with Philly. I think I had him in the middle as far as my rankings, I'm pretty sure. Didn't know exactly what to do with them. Slight ballpark downgrade. Musgrove, it's a fine pitcher, not somebody we're afraid of. I like a little mini stack with Schwarber and Harper. You can always play those guys. They're not going to be terribly popular. Other teams that we didn't really focus on. By the way, so when you say the 5-3, do you force 4-4? I might have missed that part. Like 4-2-1-1, or it's just like you don't force it necessarily when it comes to the. Like, what sort of stack number do you force? You might have said it, which one it was. I like to kind of split it up.
I look at like Sims, obviously our Sims, and then Sims around the industry, and just put percentages up to 100 on which ones I think are coming out the most. So like 5-2, 4-2, 5-1, 4-3 would be the ones I'd prioritize. Then I'd look and see if anyone's getting 5-3s, because I know 5-3s are something you want to incorporate, but I don't like overdo it because it caps your exposure on stuff. So I don't know. I remember everyone was just, run 5-3s, run 5-3s, and that's just not how you're supposed to play, in my opinion.
Alan's asking about Addison Barger. He's 2K on DK. Yes, he's a rookie. I think he's still searching for his first hit ever. Well, in the majors, he's not especially good. You know, if you look at his minor league stuff, nothing really pops. He's got a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed, but nothing that suggests that like you're going to run to him. He's just 2K. That's it. That's the only reason why you play him. And if you're stacking Toronto, you need a salary saver. I wanted what's his name, Kierstead for Baltimore, but he did not crack the lineup today. Unfortunately, he's still really, really cheap. So that was kind of my cheapie to like make stuff work. I have not figured out who my cheapie would be now. Maybe Andy Paz or Gavin Lux. You know, lefties versus Bassett, but we know the old rule against, you know, so if a lefty comes in, the Dodgers are really, really quick with the hook. They're more likely to pinch hit generally, just kind of where their lineup is set, starting lefty, and they go to a righty. But if a lefty comes in, Lux is probably gone. I'm just curious to see how many lefties in that bullpen. He might only get 2 at bats. You never really know, but he is cheap.
I won like a ton of tournaments, not only in stacks with Lux like a year ago or 2 years ago, because he didn't play last year. But like people would play him.
He tore his ACL, I think.
People would play him only in stacks. I'm like, I don't know. I thought he was fine to play as a one-off, but he was good at that point. I don't know if he's really good anymore. So
yeah, it's not been great. He hasn't been great.
Yeah.
But he's cheap, and Paz is cheap as well. And you know, part of that Dodger lineup.
Bassett can't get anything by lefties, so
it's really bad this year versus lefties, especially. You know, and again, the splits. There's only the sample isn't huge, right? We're talking about let's see, 56 hitters, 56 lefties he's faced this year, a 12.5% K rate, a 217 ISO, a WOBO of 465. That's way too high. That's very, very high. And he's been really, really good against righties. And that doesn't mean you can't play bets. Like, of course you can play bets, but I would first play Ohtani. I would first play Freeman probably before I get to bets. Just, you know, lean the lefties first on that LA side. Did we get an update as far as weather? Is that what Devin is showing us? I think that's what he's showing us. It looks like yellow is gone. I'm trying to get a refresh here. Was yellow-green for the White Sox? No. Devin, is that an update or not? Maybe I'm just making this up. You're just showing the weather off. Did somebody in chat ask for it?
It does say update. I don't know if it's updated since you last read it, but yeah, somebody in chat was asking how's the weather in the White Sox game.
Okay.
Also,
I think he updated this. Go ahead.
We also have the horse himself to get the words out of the mouth in the room, so we can pivot to that whenever you're ready, Dean.
Let's do it. Yeah, sure. Do we have everybody for crunch time, or is it just Kevin Roth solo? Let's see. Let's play the bit.
Whole crew's here.
Let's do it. Let's get confirmation. I want a proof of life. Show me crunch time. It is indeed Kevin Roth. It's also STL Card. Dave Potts, CheeseIsGood. Hey, we'll put the Roth in a second. I do want to ask, Dave, did you feel when you were writing the musings today, Dave? Did you know when you were writing it that today was free? Did you feel any sort of extra special, like pressure, to be like a little bit more witty than normal, a little bit sharper than normal?
No. So back in the day, they would tell me ahead of time, and sometimes even a day ahead of time. I don't know if Meansy is watching Crunch Time, and now Meansy will come in like 30 minutes after I'm done and be like, "Oh, by the way, I hope it wasn't terrible because we're going free today." So no, I felt no extra pressure, though I should have. If I
will say I had fully drafted.
Somebody is typing. It's not like the level of Carney angry typing, but somebody seems a little bit perturbed.
I drafted a message to you earlier, Dave, apologizing that you didn't get a notice on that, and I was like, "No, it's fine. I'll talk to him later."
You didn't send it. You just drafted.
I didn't. I literally typed it out, and I was like, "No, it's fine. It's fine." So it's funny you're bringing this up.
I doubt that I would do anything differently. Maybe we would have dropped an extra dad joke in there. Is all.
Kevin, I have a question. Just
Yeah,
want
what's
to.
up?
I know Dean hit on this on yesterday's show, but he was basically saying that you pulled those guys off the street and to take a picture, so it looked like you beat them in basketball. Is this true? And you paid them to take a picture?
It's not what I said.
No. To be clear, the people I took the selfie with were my teammates. They were the fellow Americans, and we played for French people. This was legit. It was high-level pickup ball. It's one of the best, highest-level games
You
I
were
played
playing
in.
for a country. You were
Yeah.
playing for. Yeah.
There was like trash talk. We were talking shit about the Olympics, and we were, making fun of Parisians and their cheese. Fights nearly broke out, but we came out on top. The Americans won that 4v4.
That's
Are you, like,
always
Facebook
that's
friends now?
always the narrative. That's always how they scripted the Americans won, right?
That's how it went down.
How many points did you get?
It was a game to 12 that ended up going 14, and I think I dropped 5 or 6. I was pretty dominant, if I do say so.
Oh, there you go. 6-1. There you go.
Roth is very confident about his basketball game.
Do we call BS on the 5-6 out of the 14 guys? Or?
I buy it.
I'm a straight up stone cold hooper. That's the facts. Hey, Dean, real quick, I wanted to give you a fair congratulations. Your Florida Panthers, they have defeated my Tampa Bay Lightning.
No. It's not over. It's just 3-0. It's not over.
No, there's no way
over.
that the Lightning could come back and win
Stop
4 in a
it.
row. There's no way. Congratulations on the big win.
Did you see the save by Bobrovsky in Game 2? I know Dave saw it. Dave, former goalie, you could appreciate that save, right?
Oh, that was great. There's nothing better than great playoff goaltending. It really is not anywhere in sports.
Standing on his head for sure.
I missed it.
Well, you missed just like the Tampa Bay Lightning. They missed every single shot they took that game, essentially. But Roth, I do want to give you a shout out before we step aside and get out of here. You missed 10 days or so, and you came right back in season form. Yesterday, you told us the Royals are going to delay the game, and they're going to get maybe a half a game in, possibly 5 innings. But yeah, Fernando Rodney, you closed it out and you nailed it right at 5 innings. We didn't get the CGSO for the starter for Kansas City. I thought that was thought we had a shot at it, but he got the W. Yeah. But that was a hell of a call. You'll talk about that White Sox game, I guess, in a second. Probably not much else going on. But myself and Bobby, we've overstayed our time. We want to step aside and make way for crunch time. Do appreciate y'all hanging out for the first portion. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Now stick around. You got Kevin Roth, you got Dave Potts, and you got Justin Van Zuiden, the human computer. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. As always, Dino and crew, welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's crunch time, MLB version. Going to be hanging out with you all the way up until lock, maybe a little bit through lock. We got Dave Potts, Cheese is Good, the maker of the musings and the $1 million winner. What up, Cheese?
Not too much. It's a weird old slate. I feel much better about it before.
Before what?
Just before I started writing, even before I started researching.
You felt better about it before you knew anything about it?
No, I said I don't feel any better. Usually, if I don't feel good about a slate, after I spend 6 hours researching it, I find something. I didn't really today.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm intrigued to figure out which direction we go. And then we got my guy, STL Cards, Justin Van Zuiden in the house as well. Season has come and gone, and that means that you get to hang out with us, correct?
Yeah, I'll be back a little more often now, so nice to see you. I haven't been on a show with you for a while. Hope you enjoyed your trip. And I got to play your role one day while you were gone, and I did the weather in like 30 seconds. So, the conclusion from that was that your job's pretty easy, so you better watch your back.
Yeah, let me jump in and say, so I was on that show with Cards, the weatherman, and it was seamless, it was quick, it was accurate.
Wow.
And I don't know what's so hard about what you do. Like this guy just came in.
Out of curiosity, was the weather completely fine that day?
Well, you don't need to know that.
It's not relevant details.
It may or may not have been completely fine. However, we got through it. So
what counts is that you nailed the forecast.
It was fine. There was nothing but green that day.
Okay, very nice. Well, we will use that as a transition into weather. The only game that we're watching is Chicago. I think I saw Dean had it pulled up earlier. Just in general, I think this is going to work fine, which is great because it's actually a really ugly day overall. But we've got 4 hours, maybe a little bit ahead of the game, a little bit after the game, where it will not rain. And that's right when we're playing the game. And that's the only time that we actually care about. I don't think it's rained heavy enough to make the field a major issue. especially with the sod father in Chicago. So I'm not expecting any issues. And I do really like the pitching weather there. It's pretty chilly and winds are blowing in from center at 15 miles per hour. So I'm hoping, Cheese, you're going to tell me there's a decent pitcher in that game.
There is, yeah. One of the better pitchers is in that game for sure.
It doesn't matter because it's the White Sox, so you could literally put anybody in there.
The wind could be blowing out 700 miles an hour, and it's still a pretty good spot for the pitcher.
That is a fair point. All right. With that, all my job is kind of done with. Nothing else really all that significant in weather. So we dive into the slate itself, and generally we let Cheese kind of lead things off with a little bit of pitcher talk. Cheese, what do you got?
Yeah, so there's just a bunch of good pitching. Part of what makes the slate tough is there's a ton of good pitching, which means you can play a whole bunch of different pitchers, and it's not super clear, which also then means there's not a ton of great offense because there's so much good pitching. But it's not quite like we've seen all year. It's not quite like superstar can't miss pitching because that doesn't really exist anymore.
Because they all destroyed their elbows.
Right. Yeah, all the good pitchers are sitting at home
Yeah.
With bandages around their arms. The very obvious chalk is Corbin Burns versus Oakland. Like if you're playing cash games, just play Corbin Burns, and there's no real need to think about it too hard. But I don't think that this is a slate that anyone should be heavy chalk because there's so many good pitchers. I am way under the field on Burns personally. Because he like just skill set wise, he is not any better than the next 5 pitchers. He's good. But he's also not the only one with a good matchup. It's probably the best because it's Oakland, other than maybe Eflin against the White Sox. Mm-hmm. But I think Zach Gallen is just better right now. And he actually has a higher strikeout matchup. It's very close, but like I prefer Gallen over Burns straight up, even without ownership factored in, honestly. But given that we probably get a 50% ownership discount, give me Gallen personally as my SP1.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the fantasy point projection, they're separated by like a point, and their ownership, as you mentioned, is like 15% to 30%. So it's half the ownership with the projection, pretty damn close.
Yeah, so give me Gallen over Burns. I mean, ideally, I would play both. But I also really like other high-end pitchers. I like Shota Imanaga, the Cubs guy. Another good matchup. Like Boston is just not what they used to be. I think he's a good spend up. I do like Zach Eflin against the White Sox. I like Chris Sale against Cleveland. I kind of like Eovaldi against the Reds. Like this is a lot of good pitchers. That's kind of where I'm stopping for my top tier. I know it's a lot of names, but essentially I've got Gallen as my number one. Imanaga, I don't know how we say that, is my number 2. And then I'm mostly jumping cheaper. That's on DraftKings. I'll say FanDuel has Burns and Gallen priced up at $11K. I think it's a lot more reasonable to say you want to start with probably Eflin in cash games or maybe Eovaldi in tournaments. And then on FanDuel, you don't really need to go cheap. But on DK, we've got Bailey Ober, 6,800. I love him. I think that's a great spot, great price. We have Luis, we're going to call him Gill, not Heel, who has a lot of strikeout upside for 78, a lot of risk, but a lot of strikeouts. We've got Jose Butthole Jenkins for 7,100 against St. Louis. He's kind of like, I called him the poor man's Luis Heel in the article. Like he's got some strikeout ability, got some bad control, but he's been pretty good and he's cheap. And I even have Ross Stripling in the pool at 5,700. Just I don't like it because he's facing a good team, but he throws a bunch of strikes. Like he's the kind of guy that can BABIP his way to a good start at any time. You could say the same about Miles Mikolas, but I think cards will tell you not to play him. I'm playing Stripling before Mikolas if I need the cheap guy. But most of my lineups on DK are one of the expensive pitchers, starting with Gallen plus Ober. And then I've got a few lineups that are Ober with Stripling, just so I can play all the bats.
Okay. Cards, I guess my question is when there's this many. Oh, we got our guy Butthole Jenkins in the chat. He says he's striking out 7 Cardinals tonight. Book
Go
it.
get him. Go get
Book
him.
it. Get him, butthole. Cards, my question for you is when there's a slate where there's how many viable pitches was that? Geez, like 8, 10?
It's a dozen.
A dozen.
I've got 12 in my pool. Yeah.
When there's a dozen viable pitchers, how do you win with pitchers? Like, are you just locking in 3 or 4 guys, or are you also kind of spreading out evenly and trying to maybe just get a lucky combination and win elsewhere with your stacks?
I mean, the answer theoretically to how you win is you pick the 2 guys that score the most out of that group.
Not only a great
you.
weatherman, but a great baseball analyst as well.
Thank you. The question is, are you limiting your exposure and dialing up a few guys, or are you spreading it out and, picking a little bit of all 12 of these guys?
Probably in the middle of that. I'm not going quite as deep tonight. I don't like Imanaga as much. Although Boston is pretty banged up. It's on the road. I don't think he's quite as good. I might be in the minority there. Obviously, he's not going to keep a 0 ERA, but he's also, he's priced all the way up to 9,600 on DK. So I'm out on him. Out on Nola is the most expensive guy, though I think Cheese is too. So I think for me, it's, I understand the logic as well. If you want to be underweight on Burns and GPPs, I agree with that because there's so many viable guys. Also like being overweight on Gallon at a similar projection. So we're kind of in lockstep there with the top tier on Gallon over Burns in tournaments. I'm just out on Imanaga, probably out on Uvalde as well. My pivot in the mid tier would be Cutter Crawford. A little better matchup with Bellinger on the IL for the Cubs. Crawford's got really good stuff. He's got decent advanced numbers this year as long as he can control where it's going, which is a problem at times. So if he can keep the walks in check, we got him at 12% ownership. I think he's fine for tournaments. Any of these guys at, say, Crawford and below, they all have either some element of risk or a limited amount of upside. So it's not like we're probably going to get a slate breaking performance in here. But I think Crawford would be one of those guys that maybe you could see a little bit of a ceiling from. Ober is going to project the best for obvious reasons. DraftKings needs to bump his price. It just has been in the tank ever since that 9-run start that he had or whatever it was in an inning plus to start the season. He's been fine ever since then. He gets the Angels in LA, which is a good pitcher's park. So Ober is definitely my favorite of the cheap guys. I'm not messing around with Michaelis or Stripling or those other guys. I just don't think you're going to lose a GPP because you don't play those guys. Mm-hmm. Go for somebody that's got something of a ceiling in here. Buto, I think, would even qualify as a guy that maybe you're at least chasing some ceiling, or if you want to go in the Wayback Machine and hope for something from Joe Musgrove. I wish the matchup was a little bit better, but he is cheap enough now. So I'm maybe playing like 8 guys instead of 12, 7 or 8 guys. I think Eflin as well against the White Sox, as long as the weather, which now sounds like it's going to be fine. I think he's in play as well. And I think his ownership might be a little bit less just because people who built lineups earlier maybe weren't banking on that game being okay.
Okay, very nice. Let's kick it over to some of the stacks and cards. I guess I'll start in the same spot. If there's so many pretty viable pitcher options, does that mean that hitters and stacks are kind of spread out as well? Or are there 1 or 2 stacks that people are focusing in on?
Yeah, this is really what we've been seeing all month. There's been a whole lot of days where nobody's scored more than 6, 7, 8 runs. Mm-hmm. There hasn't been, and obviously this tends to happen in April when the weather's cooler. But there hasn't been a lot of explosive stack performances. Every now and again we get a day where somebody scores 10 or 12, but and I know Cheese has referenced it in the articles too. Another day where nobody scored more than 7 or 8 runs. So that could very well be the case tonight, even though this is a full slate. If you look at just in lineup HQ, if you look at the implied team totals, the only team above 5 is Atlanta. So, there's a whole lot of good but not great pitchers going tonight, which has just got a whole bundle of teams that are projected right around 4 runs that don't feel great to stack. to me, because this is a deep slate, and I'm a person that loves to stack all the time, it just doesn't feel like a slate where you just have to try to jam in stacks all over the place. Especially if you're trying to stack two teams in the same lineup. I think maybe a one-team stack with some one-off power is probably the way that I prefer to build it tonight. I mean, I think Atlanta is pretty obviously the top offense, but there's so much accessible, cheap pitching that, if you're worried about ownership, they're going to be owned the highest as well. The pivot to the Dodgers, I think, makes sense given that they're, in theory, facing a better pitcher. That might keep a little more people away from them. So I think if you're spending all the way up for top end stacks, I think the Dodgers make more sense from a GPP game theory angle than the Braves do tonight. So they're going to be my number one. If you're looking for if you say you're spending up for Burns, you're spending up for Gallen. I think Washington and or Miami, they're facing each other against two bad teams, two bad pitching staffs. That's just one of those, who knows where that game is going to go. If you need access to a cheaper stack, I think Washington and Miami makes sense. And I kind of throw the Yankees in as one of those top end teams as well. So those would be four that I want to highlight: Dodgers, Yankees, Marlins, Washington.
Okay. Cheese, you had 12 pitchers in your pitching pool. How many stacks do you think are viable tonight?
So I will kind of back up what I said in the article, that in 10 lineups, I would have either 10 stacks, different stacks, or maybe like 7 stacks and 3 non-stacked lineups.
Wow.
Like, I just don't have this is my team, or even a this is my top 5, honestly. I can kind of give you a top like half dozen, but like Cards mentioned, just none of them are great. Like, sure, the Braves and the Dodgers, but like for their salaries, I don't love it. I guess I would say the Yankees are my favorite stack. And with salary factored in, now I'm kind of leaning more towards like a Washington, just like a nonsense team that just scraping together 6 or 7 runs with 12 hits is probably plenty on this slate. And then you get home runs with your one-offs. Easy peasy, just get home runs.
Yeah,
just
go pick the guys that hit the bombs. Yeah, easy.
But I do have several lineups that don't have any full stacks, like some, just 3-3-2s, or even just pairs of mini stacks. I also am throwing the Giants in the mix of sort of a cheap stack for the late night hammer, and I like Arizona as just kind of another random why not kind of team.
Okay. I didn't really understand what you meant when you said at the start of the show, like, this slate, like, I don't really know how to handle it. But now I do. After going through pitcher and going through stacks, like, I get it. This is a weird slate. But we still need to give the people some winners, and we still need to go around the horn. So, Cheese, let's start things off with a little catcher talk, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so there's only one catcher that I actually like. That's Ryan Jeffers. And after him, we get to do the old thing where we can actually let you, Kevin, tell us how to play the catcher position. We haven't had this in a long time. What would you do at catcher?
Well, if you're not spending up and going for Jeffers, you just play the guy in your stack. It's as simple as that. Now, if you're playing a lineup where you're not trying to stack it up, maybe you got some cheese, you want to pick out some individual power bats, maybe a guy that can go yard. You maybe look for a big dumper, something like that can get you, a quick home run, get you the points you need. Is he even on the slate? Is he even a catcher?
He is, but he's facing Zach Gallen, so he's down the board. But yeah, this really is the first slate of the year where I don't really like catcher. So I have Jeffers and then guy in my stack. By all means, play Will Smith on any slate, or play, like, both the Contrerases are decent. Travis d'Arnaud is in my pool. Other than that, it really is. This is the day I play the catcher in my stack, or mini stack. Even in lineups where I don't have full stacks, if I don't have Jeffers, it's just like, well, he correlates a little bit. Like,
you don't like
Austin
anything.
Wells with my Aaron Judge, and maybe Wells is on base when Judge homers.
Right. You don't like anything, so just take the correlation in a little mini stack. Brandon says Roth is the catcher whisperer. Alan says someone tuning in at this moment for the first time thinks Roth is the master at catcher DFS analysis. I am. I've learned it all.
I mean, that person is not wrong.
Yeah. Cards, what do you do in a catcher? Anything different or kind of the same deal?
Yeah, you should have hung with your analysis there, Roth. You qualified it at the end and then asked if the big dumper was a catcher. So
I just had to make sure. I
just
didn't
had to commit.
It.
You got to commit to it. You had it. If I would have been just, as he said, tuning in right at that time, yeah. I'd have had no false narrative. He's the real deal. Yeah, I mean, that's the position tonight. I think Gary Sanchez is viable. He can still run into one from time to time, and we know that Heel has control issues. So at 2,900 on DK, I mean, he would be just somebody that can maybe run into one that you can play tonight. So he's the only other guy I want to individually highlight other than what we've already said. So
I'm going to go Rutch Dog. I'm going Rutschman. Has he been bombing? Has he been hitting any dongs?
He's kind of
baseball lingo. So
honestly turning more into the guy you got to have in your stacks. Like Baltimore is filled with power, and he's like the guy who would rather just hit a bunch of doubles, which is fantastic. He's great. Yeah. Like he's probably the best real life hitting catcher at a good position at this point.
All right, he's my guy, a catcher today for what it's worth. All right, first base, Cards, what do you got?
All right, so as we've talked about on a lot of shows so far this year, first base isn't quite what it used to be in terms of wanting or needing to be a spend-up position every day. And you can see it in our kind of projected ownership. I mean, obviously, Ohtani's got some ownership on DK, but he's going to get outfield exposure as well. So if we take him out, you got Harper at 2%, Olsen at 4%, Freeman at 7%, Pete Alonso at 2%, Josh Naylor at 2%. Like none of these top end guys are getting ownership. And that's to say that all those guys are really fine tournament plays tonight. Pete Alonso's facing Michaelis, a pitcher who pitches the contact. He can hit one out. Matt Olson can hit one out lefty anytime. Freeman, at single digit ownership against Bassett. Bassett struggled against lefties so far this year. So if I was picking out like my favorite individual play, it's probably Freeman out of that spend up group, or you can go cheap here. I mentioned I kind of like Washington. Joey Meneses is only 2,800 on DK. Nate Lowe is hitting third for Texas. He's 3,800. Lamont Wade, you can play at first base as well. So I think it's a position where it's pretty flexible. I like those spend up guys in tournaments, but if you need to go cheap, like you're going to see some ownership in cash games, particularly on like Lowe and Meneses tonight.
Cheese, your thoughts at first?
Similar to everywhere. You play just about any of these guys for any reason. But other than Ohtani on DK, I don't know that I really care who I have. I kind of like Rizzo, especially on FanDuel at his price. But I don't know. I don't really like the expensive guys. I don't love Olsen or Freeman or Vlad or Harper. So I'm more playing the ownership game that Cards kind of mentioned, like all these low owned guys. For me, Pete Alonso and Christian Walker are the two that I'm gravitating towards. They're facing low strikeout pitchers and they have power, and that's good enough for me.
Okay. Quick question, just randomly from It's Christian. Why don't I hear anyone talking about the Marlins? The bat is pushing them. Are those one of those teams that fall perfectly into the sure category?
Yeah, sure. We'll talk about a couple of them in the outfield. We won't probably mention individual names until we get to the outfield. But yeah, they're right there. Similar. I mean, Cards mentioned that game.
Yeah, they were one of my four stacks that I threw out there.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah, I think we're all on the Marlins. Yeah, on them in the way we're on everybody on the slate.
Right. Okay. Second base, Cheese. What do you got?
This might be the best position today, second and short, as is the new trend, the old middle infield. The four spend ups I really do like. Semien, Betts, Marte, Albies. I think I'm going to say Semien is my favorite. And it's I don't think you have to spend the extra money for Betts today. So give me Semien. followed by Marte and Albies. And then I like Torres in the mid-tier. Louis Garcia is kind of the go-to cheap guy for me on DraftKings. And that is it.
Cards, second base.
Yeah, I think there's a few other names you could throw in there. In addition to those guys, the Tampa guys will get some buzz tonight. I don't really know what to make of Tampa. Like, their team total is up near the top, and the White Sox are awful, and Flexen gets like no Ks. But it is like chilly and gross today in this area. It rained like all day, so I don't know if the Rays are the Rays really getting amped up to come score a bunch of runs on a Friday night when it's like 40 degrees in Chicago and dreary? I don't know if I'm super comfortable with Rays at some level of ownership tonight, but Curtis Mead is 2,600 on DK. He's going to be a fairly popular play for those that are punting. I don't like a whole lot else of the cheap stuff, so I suppose he's fine. I agree with Cheese's thoughts on Torres. He's probably my favorite kind of GPP option. If you're not on Bailey Ober, I think Drury's okay hitting fifth for the Angels, but I think we've hit on most of them. Brendan Donovan, I think, is fine as well, leading off for the Cardinals, especially if Buto has some control issues. So that's about it at second, though. Albies is my favorite play.
Gotcha. How about third base cards?
All right. So I think if you're going up at the top, you either got to get the Braves guy or the Dodgers guy here. So you're taking either Riley or Muncy if you're spending up at the position. Now, if you wanted to do one of those weird things where you want to play the chalky stack but be a little bit different, you could play like a Dodgers stack with Riley instead of Muncy, or you could play a Braves stack with Muncy instead of Riley. I like doing that a little bit more on shorter slates than this one, but it's still something you could consider tonight. Jose Miranda is hitting cleanup for the Twins. I'm not sure what that says about the Twins at the moment, but he's 2,800 on DK. He is by far my favorite individual value at the position. I'd play Miranda over a lot of our other punts that are showing some ownership, like Farmer or IKF or any of those guys. I'm not playing Sano tonight either. So if you're going cheap, for me, it's just play Miranda. And everybody else outside of the Braves and Dodgers spend up and those punts, everyone else is like mega low ownership. So if you want to play Jose Ramirez against Chris Sale, he's going to be 2% tonight. Matt Chapman, with some pop, 2 or 3%, but personally probably not getting super cute at this position. A lot of Riley, Muncy, and Miranda for me.
Cheese, third base.
Yeah, he's cheap. I think Jose will read him what kind of rights will he read him?
The Miranda rights.
That's
right.
It just makes me want to play that. The first time he was ever in a lineup, I was like, I've got to write about this guy, and I got to play him. I only wish he was good. I guess I really do like Austin Riley. He's kind of my priority Brave because of the position. And then on DK where Muncy is so much cheaper than him, I agree with cards. It's like that. I think this is where you play the chalky teams, but if you're not stacking the teams, I don't think it really matters. And they're not really chalky per se either. They're just probably more popular than everything else. The rest of this position, I don't mind playing someone like Miranda, or I've got some like Oswaldo Cabrera. I think you could even play Miguel Sano in a Bailey Ober lineup and just hope you get a home run. But yeah, Riley and Muncy are like way ahead of the field for me.
Okay, that brings us to shortstop, which I do believe you love these days.
It's just so good every day. I'm going to say Seager 1, Gunnar Henderson 2, and CJ Abrams 3, with Betts again being not probably a necessary spend up, but that's 4 like superstar shortstops, and we're not even done. I mean, you can play Volpe, you can always play Ellie De La Cruz, you could play Lindor or Willie Adames. I do want to spend up here anywhere I can get Seager, Henderson, or Abrams. Like those really are my main 3 guys. but it's all very good.
Card, shortstop.
Yeah, pretty wild how much offensive talent we have at the position right now. And it feels like, some of these guys just end up flying a little bit under the radar most nights simply because you can't play a lineup full of shortstops. Although it would be great if we could, but I like Abrams is one of my favorites. I tend to be overweight on him most nights. Looks like he's like the top guy in our consensus value rankings too at the position tonight, given points per dollar. I mean, at 5K on DraftKings, if you need that savings down from Seager at 5,800 or from Gunnar, who's up to 6 now, I think Abrams is perfectly fine. But in a position where I think tonight, because there's so much flexibility at the other spots, really there's a cheap guy that you can like at all of the other positions. I don't think this is the spot to go cheap. It just doesn't make sense because 2 or 3 of these, high-end guys are going to have good nights, and one of them might end up having the you got to have it night. I mean, Lindor hit 2 homers the other day. There's just so many high-end options that I think you spend on one of those guys tonight.
Okay. Well, how about the outfield? I know there's plenty of good bats there. Is it spending up again, or are there some cheap plays you like as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think you spend up to get the one guy at the top you want, because you should have the salary to do that. I mean, on DraftKings for me, you got basically you'd be choosing between Ohtani and Acuna. If you're spending top dollar, Buxton in the mid tier is probably going to be my favorite guy in there. But you got the other. I like the Yankees too, and that's probably the GPP angle. I think in cash it's Ohtani or Acuna if you're spending up, but in GPPs, like you're getting Judge and Soto at like 5% ownership tonight. So I think those are the pivots if you're looking for kind of GPP angles. Cheaper guys, this is where we can start to take some guys in that Miami Washington game that we've been talking about a little bit. So Jesus Sanchez, Eddie Rosario are both under 3K on DraftKings. Probably a pass on Jesse Winker outside of a stack. I think I'd go with like a Brian Dela Cruz or spend up for Jazz Chisholm if I'm looking to just play a one-off guy. But Sanchez and Rosario, I like a good bit. They're a couple of my favorite values in the outfield tonight. Tyler O'Neill, I think, is an interesting one-off as well. I mentioned Imanaga. I'm not as high on compared to his numbers so far. Certainly not somebody you have to play, but given his power start early in the year before he got injured, 3% Tyler O'Neill in a GPP, I think, is worth a stab as well.
Cheese, your thoughts in the outfield?
Yeah, I really like the high end and the cheap end, and as we've seen a lot, the mid tier it has a few names I really like, but I don't love it. I did love Stanton before he ended up not being in the lineup, and I don't have a pivot that I love there. I mean, I don't mind Buxton, and then there's guys that are like you're kind of fishing for the one random home run, but they aren't great. Guys like James Outman or Adam Duvall or Varsho, like. Maybe they hit a home run, but if they don't, they're probably just like 0 for 3 and then get pinch hit for, and it's not exciting. I think you get the same chance of something with the cheap Jesus Sanchez or Mike Yazerbaduski or something under 3K on DraftKings. At the high end, I would put Ohtani first and Judge second and probably Trout third. But it's all fantastic. And there's a bunch of elite players that like nobody's going to play like at all just because the slate's so big. I'm never going to tell you not to play Fernando Tatis or Adolis Garcia type players or Kyle Schwarber, but mostly Ohtani and Judge I think are the spends you want.
Gotcha. All right, guys, we need some home run picks, and then we're going to get to some of the questions from the Discord and eventually from the YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, you should know this show is free, and that's pretty cool. All we ask is that you hit us with a little thumbs up, so make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and then sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. Got a lot going on here. Got an option for whatever sport, whatever level you're looking for. 6-month combo subscription, exclusive price, $469.99. That's for 6 months, and it is a savings of $250 a month, $250 total. as opposed to buying 6 individual months of combo premium. You also get your first month of RG premium for $40 off at a limited time. And if you just want to test run things, you get a 3-day pass for $19.99. Links in the description for more info on all those deals. Hopefully, I bought you guys time to get some solid home run picks. Cheese, what do you got?
So for the high end guys, we just got a little note that I did not know in the Discord. Is it really Aaron Judge's birthday? He was arguably my pick anyway. If it's his birthday, guaranteed 5 home runs.
Yes.
But no, I will go with Aaron Judge on the high end. Like all these high end guys are good plays, but give me Judge. I'll skip down to the cheap stuff with Jesus Sanchez. And then in the mid-tier, out of those random mid-tier guys I mentioned, I'm going to say that Duvall is the guy who homers tonight.
Okay. We've got Alan in the YouTube chat, who, by the way, runs the fantastic Roto Narratives Twitter. He says, yes, confirmed birthday narrative for Judge.
Huge.
Yeah. It's a multi-home run night for Judge now. And that's just a guarantee, essentially. Cards, got a few names for me?
Yes, I will go with I just had my whole list of 3. So on the cheap, I will go with Gary Sanchez. In the mid tier, I will go with Gleyber Torres, and on the high end, I will go with Austin Riley.
Very good. Cheese, I was talking to a friend today. They went to a Yankees game recently, and the Yankees fans were booing Judge. They were booing him after a poor performance. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is that insane, or is that just New York?
I mean, that's insane for sure. Like, what are you doing? Yeah,
you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, he went hitless for like 5 or 6 days or something. I assume it was in that stretch. But oh no, what did you do? I mean, he's hitting like below 200 right now. Like,
still can't boo.
Oh well, yeah. Like, don't boo Aaron Judge.
For clarity, the day he got booed, he was 0 for 4 with 4 Ks.
If he's hitting 180 in August with 9 home runs, you can boo him. Let's go with that.
Right. A little early. Cards, you maybe feel like you're on board with this boo.
No, I'm not.
I feel like you might boo.
He was backing it up for sure.
I am not endorsing the booing. I'm not a booer. They're saying boo earns. But it's New York, and if you're 0 for 4 with 4 Ks, they're going to boo you. I don't care who you are. You're 0 for 4 with 4 Ks in New York, you're getting booed. It does not surprise me that he got booed. I think it is ridiculous that he got booed, but it does not surprise me.
Okay, fair enough. Let's get into some QQs. We got 6-7 minutes or so here until lock. We'll start with you, Cards. D-Rock says, DKGPP, I got a Dodgers stack with a Giants mini stack. Should I go Eovaldi or Eflin?
I am not on Uvalde tonight. I think Eflin is better for cash than GPPs, but I think you could take that one either way. Like the Rays are going to limit Eflin to like 80 pitches. So if you're comfortable with the matchup for Uvalde, I'd say play him. But Eflin, I guess, is my technical answer because I'm playing more of him.
Very good. MK says, Cheese, just say it again. San Francisco late night hammer.
San Francisco late night hammer.
That's right. That was it. That was the easiest.
Yeah.
It wasn't even.
I do legitimately like it. Like they're one of the better kind of random cheap teams, I think.
Yeah. All right. FanDuel cash question, Cheese. Gallon Sano or Eflin Riley?
Eflin Riley.
Cards coming to you from a side FanDuel cash. It is a 3v3. Riley, Acuna, Adley, or free money Freddie, Ohtani, and Harper.
I like the first one.
Okay. And then Cards, price considered, how would you rank your favorite Baltimore bats in a FanDuel stack?
Give a question to Cheese. I'm going to pivot to FanDuel and look at their prices right quick here.
Sure. DK Cash, Cheese, your favorite pitchers if you play DK Cash. I assume Ober is on the list. Maybe I'm wrong.
It'd be Burns Ober.
Burns Ober. Okay. Very good. Devin says, are we not worried about the White Sox weather at all? honestly, I was so not worried that I kind of dismissed it and checked out. But yeah, I think yes. I just looked at radar. It's clearing now. It should be clear until 10 or 11 p.m. their time. So yes,
Do you want to ask cards?
I do. I was buying him more time. Cards.
Oh no, about the weather.
Oh,
I can confirm. See, this is in addition to filling in for Roth.
He can just walk outside and
I got a little bit of a boots on the ground scenario. Mm-hmm. So I'm like an hour and a half west of Chicago, and it stopped raining here like an hour and a half ago. So I can confirm that the clearing matches what the radar shows.
Good to hear.
If you need me to. So
thank you. We need that boots on the ground Cards report. Cards, your favorite bats in Baltimore in a stack on FanDuel.
Yeah, so Gunnar, I think you have to play in a stack, even though he's a little expensive. Price is a little easier to navigate on FanDuel. Adley at 32, I think, is in a stack. Santander at 31, and Ryan O'Hearn would be my fourth at 2,700.
Okay, great. Devin said, not our Devin in chat says, I figured they were Chicago was getting the storm that came through. They did. They already got one storm. They got another one later tonight. But
did you see the videos of the tornadoes in Nebraska this afternoon, Roth?
Yeah,
that was wild stuff.
When you get tornadoes that are wider than they are tall, that's bad news bears. That is not good stuff there. By the way, shout out to our Devin. I'm just noticing these little Kevin Roth, straight up stone cold hooper, and STL Cards resident Chicago weather expert. These are just excellent touches there. Dean says St. Louis Cardinals fans are the best fans in the world. By rule, they are not allowed to boo, nor is there any video evidence to suggest this rule has ever been broken.
Yeah, right. They got booed off the field when they lost 14-1 the other night, so we are not immune from a booing. But personally, I do not boo. I'm above the booing.
Okay, that's fair. I love to boo, but not my own team. I don't think I've ever booed my own team, but I do love to give a good boo to the opposing team. Eric says, Cheese, I've got Bassett as my SP2 tonight. Am I crazy?
I would say yes.
Okay. All right. What do we got here? Favorite FanDuel GPP pitcher? I'll ask both of you this question. Cheese, you can go first.
FanDuel GPP, you said?
Your favorite FanDuel GPP pitcher?
Yeah, that's Zach Gallen.
Cards?
Yeah, I would actually have the same answer. Chris Sale, if you really want me to pick somebody else.
Okay. We got Fernando Rodney in the chat. He says, arrows up. Patrick Bailey or Lee, 1v1, no price involved. Cards?
I would go with Lee. I think I was looking to see where Bailey was hitting for sure. I mean, 6 to 1, half dozen of the other. They got about the same projection, but yeah, Lee if I have to pick.
Okay. Catching up. Just funny random notes in the chat. Thoughts on a Pittsburgh stack on DK, Cheese?
They did not quite make my list. I mean, they're totally playable. I would put them somewhere just in the random huge middle, but like they're not in my top 10.
Okay. Your favorite stack? This question was for FanDuel single entry, but maybe I'll ask you both. Just your favorite stack in general, all things considered, ownership, price, all that. Cards, was it Yankees or maybe Cheese? It was Yankees for you, I know.
Yeah, I think it was for him, but I like them too. I would probably say the Dodgers because they're not going to be super chalk tonight, but I like both of those.
Cheese, Yankees. Maybe
I like Yankees more so on DraftKings, just the way the pricing and positions work out. I would honestly, I'm going to say Arizona.
Okay. I assumed just because I'm still in basketball mode that lock was happening now, and I'm looking at times and I'm realized that's not the case. We still got 5 more minutes of this nonsense, right?
That's correct.
We do.
How lucky are we? How
Exciting
lucky?
times.
How lucky are they? Make sure you hit us with that thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Just because it's free content. We want the eyeballs. We need the eyeballs to keep it free for you. So hit the thumbs up for you.
Roth is shaking off the rust there with the times.
Oh God, there's two things that get me: the times, and then calling every time I see the C, calling someone a center instead of a catcher. Those are the two things that, as I transition, I need to rework. DePrince says, "What are our thoughts on Butto? Not our guy Butto Jenkins in the chat, but the pitcher Buto, or as Cards has been calling him. I think we kind of like him, right? Cards."
I mean, I abstain because he's facing the Cardinals, and so it's no, he's fine. Like I would not play him in cash games. In GPPs, if you need somebody down there, like, yeah, I think he's okay. The Cardinals are bad, or have been bad. Hopefully, don't stay as bad, but it doesn't look great. But they still, I mean, they don't strike out a ton outside of Gorman, so I don't think it's this massive gotta have it ceiling type of spot, but if he's in that price range that you need, he's fine.
Okay. Shout out to J3 who says Cards and Cheese make a great duo. Thanks, guys. Let's cash and make enough bread for these gas prices. I just read that because of the start of it, but the end part of that question made me laugh. I do agree. You guys are an awesome duo and been at it, I don't know, like longer than I've been alive combined. So an experienced and excellent duo, I would say. What else do we got here? Albies or Lindor and a DK GPP, Cheese?
Albies.
Have you both been combined? Have you been playing fantasy baseball longer than I've been alive? Cheese, have you been playing fantasy baseball more than 20 years?
Yes.
Cards, have you been playing fantasy baseball for more than
Does
20
my
years?
like free college league with my buddies on Yahoo where we played for like $10 count?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I started when I was 20 and I will be 40 in June. So right at 20 years.
You both, yes, combined, you have indeed been playing fantasy baseball longer than I've been alive. That's pretty impressive, guys. Margot or Young in a DK GPP, Cards?
To be frank, not really on either tonight. Young is batting ninth. I mean, Margot, there's some pinch hit risk there. At least he's in a good lineup spot against a bad pitcher. I'd go him.
Okay. Maryi says, Roth, you're 20. No, to be clear, combined. We got to add their numbers. They're 20 and 20 tops me, but 20 would not. I've got 4,100 left. FanDuel GPP. Cheese, can you give me a util player? 4,100 left in the FanDuel
41. I mean, you can play almost anyone for 41.
Yeah.
Where'd my little tab go there?
You can get Aaron Judge in his 5 homers for 38.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you're not Judge 1, Trout 2.
41? You can get Judge for 41?
Yeah, FanDuel, there's only like 5 players more than that. Like, the FanDuel pricing is way different than DK. So almost everyone's under 41.
Wow, okay. Is Tampa a top 5 stack versus flexing tonight? We kind of talked about this where numbers wise, maybe it seems it Cards, but it's just hard for you to get on board. I feel like we never really stack Tampa. You don't really think of them as the team that's going to put up 15 runs.
Yeah, and they are.
The
I mean,
sucks.
and they aren't that kind of team. You know, they
Yeah.
win a lot of lower scoring games. Rosarena struggled in the early going. And as I mentioned, for anybody that missed it, you know, it's been raining in Chicago. It's like 40 degrees.
Winds are blowing in.
The wind's blowing in. It's the White Sox. They're 3-22 or something, and there's going to be like 50 people there. Like, are the Rays really jacked up to go take long, patient at bats and put together like 15 runs on a Friday night, like in Chicago when it's gross outside? Like, man, you know, you get ahead 6-0, you mail it in.
They're good. Yeah, that's yeah. They get that like 4-0 lead.
Yeah, you know, we're swinging at the first pitch.
We're
buddy.
all right. Yeah. All right, guys. With that, we have hit the lock. Excellent show from both of you. Excellent stuff by producer Devin as well. We're going to bounce on out of here. Make sure you hit us with a little thumbs up on our way out. Of course, we'll be back again all season long. You know the drill for Cheese, for Cards, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.